Absolutely.
But like I
I
never.
want to hear more about this growing up with the, because I was unaware that you were Brazilian, and that's super interesting to me because I like my mother's Nicaraguan, my father's Puerto Rican, and
Hmm.
they grew up like I grew up hearing a lot of bomba in my house, and I didn't realize until recently, getting a little bit more in touch with my like what my parents would play, like right growing up, I would always
Yeah.
have like this very like, I don't want to listen to what my parents listen to, you know, like, and especially growing up in the 80s, having like hip
Yes.
hop be around and so ubiquitous
Yes.
back then, right? I was
Yes.
very anti everything Latin and my parents culture and their music, because I was so entrenched in Bronx and New York City culture, right, and hip
Hmm.
hop culture.
Yeah.
But like as I've recently gotten into, like, I'm coming to realize that, wow, I did not realize like my parents had my sisters in bomba dance troops, and so
Yeah.
like if I'm not mistaken, right, if I'm not mistaken, I believe samba, like bomba, has its roots, indigenous roots based in Africa, right, musically.
Yes. Absolutely.
Can you expand on
Yeah.
that a
Yeah.
bit more? Because honestly, I'm sitting here going, "What the fuck's a bamba?" I don't mean it disrespectfully. I just swear I've never
No,
heard
no,
it
no,
before in
no.
my
This
No,
is
no,
what
I
we're
lifetime.
here
get
for. That's
totally,
exactly what
totally.
that. Yeah,
It's the way that the instruments were made, and the way that they were put together. These were the slave instruments, like things like the beating bow and those type of things. That the way that the drums were stretched out, like, and then they just adopted it and infused some of the Latin culture into it. But it's all built off of those African rhythms,
Mm.
yeah.
and it's like hypnotic. Like it's some of the most hypnotic music ever. You might not even like it, but if it comes on, or maybe you change that, right? You might not seek it out, but if it comes on, you probably like it.
Mm.
It's just got this kind of pull and gravity to it. It's amazing. And as you were speaking, right, like I was forming the words to say the same thing because that was the impact of hip hop culture. It was a culture. It was already packed. It was put together. It was bubbling. It was forming. It was active and seeking involvement, like wanting people to get into it and push it. Um, and when you're young and impressionable, like for real, like I was like, this is it. And
Same
just I
feeling.
just dove in, and then I went on a completely different path where my sister really embraced the Brazilian culture, and she's way more fluent than I am. She's been way more than I have, and she's just connected to that side of the family in the ways that I am not. Um, because I embraced this other culture that was emerging at the time, and make no mistake, it was a culture. There were rules to that society, like, and
So if I
a
understand,
lot of that currency was the respect. Yeah.
like, was it like weird then to be part of multiple cultures? So you had to like almost pick one and ingratiate into it. You couldn't like hop around. I'm not. I don't know if I'm framing that right, but
No, you are. Because at first it was awkward, right? Because my mom used to make me samba in front of people when they would come over, like when I was a little kid. Like I remember like being like 7 or 8, and my mom throwing on the samba record and saying, pulling me out, and I get my feet moving. I was killing it too. I was. But then around 13, I'm that kid. It's 82, 83. Um, the hip hop is there in the undertone. It's everywhere we walk around. I'm seeing it in the street. I'm seeing the trains painted. Like it was amazing. It was magical to me,
so you were like,
and it was calling me.
I
Yeah.
just want to like make sure everybody understands what he's literally saying here. So like, let's say, when does hip hop to you start? Like, when does it start?
Um,
Um,
for me, 79. For me, like as a 9-year old, starting to expand a little bit more, and the other kids at school who are talking about things. Somebody's older brother put somebody on, and it took a while to get to us. I mean, for the older kids, I mean, they were probably, getting it back in 77, 78 as it was just starting to form up.
So what's the first hip hop song that you can remember being like, "Yo, that's that shit"?
Um, it was like the first, like one of the first big crossover collabo songs that kind of stuck in my head. Um, this would be like a pre-scenario kind of scenario. It was I think it was the Force MDs versus the Fat Boys on the Staten Island ferry. I think that was the song was actually that was the premise of it. So they were battling on the Staten Island ferry,
Nice. That's crazy.
and
I
you
think
know,
that
and,
sounds
and
familiar. Like I don't know why. Some like I feel like I've literally seen that as the track name somewhere before.
I'm gonna have to search it out. And if somebody's doing it, googling now, maybe it's a different set of artists, but it's a battle on the Staten Island ferry. Foursome D's was involved in it. I know it's Foursome D's. I think it's the Fat Boys, but it's that kind of song, right? Where you're just like, what? That even happened? Like, yes, that was happening, and that's when you started seeing these different groups that were finding success individually, like doing these like crossovers and collabs, and that's where the connections are starting to happen. Um, and it became really interesting. And then right after that came the crews, and then the first crew that really had an impact on me was the Juice Crew. I was like, Molly Mall's In Control was like my high school jam. I remember I had invested in a double cassette Walkman that I bought from one of those Japanese import shops that used to be on 72nd Street, and I spent my whole after school money on that one. But it was worth it until it got jacked from me in some class where somebody got it out of my drawer.
Yeah, I
But I would
understand
dub Molly
exactly what
Mall
that
in
feels like.
Control for other people. Yeah.
Yo, honestly,
I'm
this is
sorry.
amazing
I got a
stuff, my
little
guy.
long winded
No,
on that
this is
one.
perfect. You don't understand. Normally, I have to try to trick people into doing what you're just magically doing. This is it. You're doing the show properly. This is we want knowledge nuggets. Yo, for me it's mad helpful. Like even like the 2 months or whatever we've been doing this, my understanding of the foundational elements of what made hip hop special, why New York like is the mecca, we'll say. Like I understood it was cool. I understood a lot, but as far as Wikipedia goes, right? Like as far as you can watch a documentary or something, right? Or whatever, and that goes so far. But to hear you just describe being there at that time, literally living those moments, having things happen that other people rap about and stuff. Like you gotta understand, this is really important, I think, for everybody that's not from New York to hear you describe this stuff because